A ratio is a comparison of two numbers. And we can use ratios to compare different things. For example, I'm going to compare my red M&Ms to my blue M&Ms. So the first thing I need to do is figure out how many red M&Ms do I have. And I see I have 1, 2 red M&Ms. And I'm going to compare those to my blue M&Ms. I've got 1, 2, 3 blue M&Ms. So when you write a ratio, you can actually write it 4 different ways. You can write it using the word 2 for 2, 2, 3, meaning I have 2 red M&Ms to every 3 blue M&Ms. 2 out of 3. I can use a colon, or I can write it as a fraction. Now the only thing you need to know is that whatever comes first in your comparison is also going to come first in your ratio, or it's going to be your numerator. Whatever comes second in the ratio, or your comparison, is going to be written second. So 3, 3, 3. Or it'll be your denominator. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about some other ratios we can write here. What about this? Let's compare our green M&Ms to brown. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 green M&Ms. So I've got 4 greens to, I have 1, 2 browns. So if I were going to write this as a fraction, I would say it's 4 over 2. Now, when you're talking about ratios, you do simplify a ratio, but you're not going to change it from an improper fraction to a whole number or a mixed number. And the reason is you want to still be able to see what you're comparing. You want to know that I have 2 green, but only 1 brown. Okay? And last but not least, let's compare orange to total. Well, if I look here, let's clean this up. I can see that I have 4 orange M&Ms, and we need our total number of M&Ms here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 4 orange compared to 17 total M&Ms. All right, so let's talk about rates. A rate is a special kind of ratio. It's a ratio where your two numbers have different units. So in the other one, when we were writing ratios, we were comparing M&Ms to M&Ms. This time we're going to be comparing two different units. For example, miles and gallons. So this says you drive 425 miles on 15 gallons. It compares the number of miles driven to the number of gallons used. A difference between rates and ratios is that a rate is usually expressed per unit, meaning that your denominator is 1. So instead of figuring out how much gas for 15 gallons, what we want to do is find out how much gas did we use, or how many miles did we drive for 1 gallon of gas. So what we have to do is take this denominator and change it so that it's only going to represent 1 gallon instead of 15 gallons. And the way you do that is you're always going to take your rate and divide it by whatever you have in your denominator. So instead of 15, 15 divided by 15 gives me 1. Now with all types of fractions, whatever I do to the bottom, I also have to do to the top. So 420 miles divided by 15 is going to give me 28. So if I look at this, it says 28 miles and 1 gallon, which tells me that they drove 28 miles on 1 gallon of gas. Now when it comes to rates, you have to pay attention to what goes in your denominator, because your denominator is what's going to be made into a unit, like a single per unit thing. So a lot of times your question will tell you, I bought 7 movie tickets for $66.50. What is the cost per ticket? So what I know is I'm starting with 7 tickets, but when I get my final answer, I want my cost per ticket, which means I want to know how much it was for 1 ticket. So that tells me that my tickets are going to go on the bottom. If my tickets go on the bottom, it means my cost, my $66.50, has to go on the top. So $66.50 for 7 tickets. To figure out how much per 1 ticket, I have to divide both of these, numerator and denominator, by 7, and I find out that it was $9.50. So it costs $9.50 per ticket. Okay, again, look at this last one. There are 220 calories in a 5-ounce chocolate bar. how many calories are there per ounce? So since I want to know per ounce, that means eventually I want 1 ounce. So my ounces are going to go on the bottom. So there were 220 calories for 5 ounces. How much is that per ounce? So I'm going to have to divide everything here by 5 because I don't want 5 ounces. I want just 1 ounce. So 5 ounces divided by 5 gives me 1 ounce, and 220 divided by 5 gives me 44. So that means there are 44 calories per ounce.